Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Phil Pellegrino. Welcome to UBS Trending. Today's topic of conversation is long-term care planning. It's an important topic and it's timely because November happens to be Long-Term Care Planning Awareness Month. So today I'm joined with two special guests. My first guest is here with me in the studio, and that's Emily Lau. Emily is head of the Wealth Planning Specialist team here at UBS. And also joining us on video is Rich Kopetsky. Rich Kopetsky is from San Diego, and he is a partner at SSK Long-Term Care Associates, which is a UBS-approved insurance agency that works with our financial advisors and clients to place long-term care insurance solutions. So Rich and Emily, thank you very much for being with me today and for this important topic. I think, Emily, we'll start with you. And the first question I have for you is, why is it so important to pre-plan for a potential long-term care event?
Thanks, Phil, and it's a true pleasure to be here with you and with Rich in the studio to talk about this incredibly timely as well as an incredibly pertinent topic for our clients. So there's several reasons why pre-planning for long-term care event is important. The first being that statistically speaking, the probability of someone needing long-term care is relatively high. Approximately 70% of those who are over the age of 65 will need some form of long-term care at some point. Secondly, in this country, there's no social safety net program to address long-term care costs. Healthcare insurance, which includes Medicare, will not cover custodial long-term care. While Medicaid will cover long-term care, there are substantial income as well as asset levels that one would have to meet in order to qualify, because that program is really meant for those who are financially impoverished. I know Rich is going to be going over a little bit more of that at a later point today. The good news is that there are a number of payment options available, like, for example, using your assets, such as your portfolio investments, as well as a health savings account to the extent that you have it and you meet qualifications to pay for long-term care costs. And that would be the self-funding route, or you can do that through insurance. Now, Phil, you may ask the question of, well, what about family members? Can they be depended upon in order to help with the type of care that one would need? So I would say potentially, but in speaking with a lot of my clients, oftentimes it's the last thing that they would want to do is to depend upon family. So the message is, the earlier you plan, the more options that will be available to you. Thirdly, long-term care costs can be substantial. The average long-term care cost nationwide is anywhere from $72,000 to $120,000 on an annual basis, and that's only today. This is a type of cost that is estimated to be growing at an average rate about 4.5%. And the average duration of long-term care is about 4 years. And it can be substantially more than that, depending upon the type of care. So, for example, in the case of a cognitive impairment, it will certainly be a lot longer than 4 years. And other factors which would increase the cost of long-term care can include the type of care needed, the quality of care that one is looking for, as well as the location. Lastly, not only, as you can probably tell from some of the numbers I tossed out, not only does a long-term care event can be financially taxing, but it also can be an emotionally taxing time on the individual needing the care and their family members. If you think about it, those needing the care is going from a state of being self-sufficient to all of a sudden needing help just to perform everyday type of activities. So pre-planning for long-term care truly allows you to retain a certain level of control over one of the most, or what could be the most catastrophic event in your lifetime.
Great overview, Emily. Thank you. And Rich, I'm going to turn to you for a moment. Let's just take a step back and let's try to level set. What exactly is long-term care?
Yeah, first, great to be here with you, Phil and Emily. And as Emily mentioned, long-term care is a family issue. The family is always involved either emotionally, physically providing the care, or financially. And we'll get into a little bit more about the costs later on. But by definition, long-term care is care that is custodial in nature. It's not medically necessary, like the type of care that you would receive from your doctor or in a hospital, because you're expected to get better for that type of care. And when you're unable to perform your own normal activities of daily living, like bathing, feeding, dressing, transferring yourself, that's the definition of long-term care. Now, if you look at most of the claims filed, let's say for long-term care insurance, it would be because somebody has lost at least 2 or 3 or 4 of their activities of daily living. Hence, they need care from somebody else as well. Or they've been diagnosed with a cognitive condition such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and they need care. And unfortunately, there's still no cure for both of those terrible diseases, but it's the number one and number two reasons why people would need long-term care. When it comes to the setting of needing long-term care, most people are going to get long-term care in their own home, particularly post-COVID and what happened, unfortunately, in nursing homes. Really, nobody's interested in being in a nursing facility. They want to receive care in their own home. So the family is going to be involved. The family may be involved with managing the care, or they could be involved with physically giving the care as well. And as I mentioned, there's an emotional part, a physical part, and a financial part for that family to deal with the care.
Okay, so let's talk for a moment, Rich, about the financial aspects of this, because obviously there's a cost to it. It can be quite expensive. What options are available to clients to fund a long-term care event?
I like to call this the 3 paths to financing, a long-term care risk. The best way to look at this and recommendations that I give out to clients is you're already insuring your biggest asset, which is your home. You're also insuring your car. And as Emily mentioned, when you look at the risk of needing long-term care, whether that's inside or in an outside facility, it's 70% if you're 65 years of age or older. So that's a big risk for most families, regardless of net worth. But the 3 paths are as follows. 1, you can self-insure the risk. Number 2, you can use Medicaid, which is the welfare program for all the states in this country. And number 3, you can transfer the risk and purchase long-term care insurance. So first, let's talk about self-insuring the risk. And Emily mentioned this as well. We talk about it a lot because there are a lot of people out there who maybe think they can self-insure the risk, but when they start looking at the costs, they may think twice about doing that. I like to call it self-assuring with an A, the risk. But let's talk about self-insuring. So today, and I'll take the New York City area, the cost of care in somebody's home is around $67,000 a year. If they were getting care, weekly for most weeks in the year. In 20 years, because of inflation, that cost would have grown to $120,000. So let's say statistically somebody needs care for 3 years, which is usually the average claim that you see, is you're looking at $120,000 in 20 years for one person needing care in their own home. Then you take on who's going to give the care, what type of setting that you're going to get the care in. It could be financially draining for a family to pull that money out of investable assets or a retirement account. Number 2 is using Medicaid. As I mentioned, this is the state's welfare program. The problem with Medicaid and how I look at it is it usually becomes a last option for people that either A, do not have assets or income, or B, have spent down money on paying for care, and then they have to apply for state assistance. The problem with that type of option is you have to spend down income and assets. And also, people used to transfer assets in order to qualify for Medicaid. The states really put an end to that and have look-back periods from 3 years to 5 years in most states, transferring assets in order to qualify. So I always ask people this: when would you transfer assets, let's say, to your children? Probably not when you're healthy. It's when you're sick, and usually when you're sick, it's too late to do it because of the Medicaid rules. So as I mentioned, this is a last option for most people, and usually not recommended. The third option is transferring the risk and purchasing long-term care insurance. And the good news is that you have an abundance of options today that we didn't have in the past that clients can look at. So here's where I get back to self-insuring the risk. Is there a better way to self-insure the risk, meaning transferring to have insurance pay for it? And as I mentioned before, you're already insuring your home, you're insuring your car, you may be insuring your business. And when you look at long-term care, you're really protecting your assets and income by transferring that risk. So as Emily mentioned, it's a 70% chance of needing care. So the good news is lots of choices today where clients can either pay one lump sum to purchase long-term care insurance. They can pay it up in 5 or 10 years. They could have guaranteed premiums, never to go up ever. They can have guaranteed long-term care benefits, and they also can have a guaranteed life insurance death benefit as well. And another way to fund or finance long-term care would also be able to use existing life insurance policies with cash value and transfer those into a long-term care life policy. So in closing, I like to say this: what we usually recommend to clients is that you use a little bit of your assets to fund and purchase long-term care insurance, thereby protecting your investment and retirement accounts, and also making sure, because it's a family issue, that your family knows about this in advance and has the proper documents, including insurance, in play. So if there is an event, they know how to not only care for you, but also pay for the care.
Great. Emily, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you, how can UBS help our clients with their long-term care planning concerns?
Advisors here at UBS can help clients in several ways. The first of which is that I know we covered a lot today in a very short time period, so they can certainly provide intellectual capital for those who are interested in reading up on more of this, such as further considerations that they should think about. They can provide insights on what long-term care costs would be, as well as how it impacts you specifically by incorporating those costs into your financial plan. And then lastly, your financial advisor here at UBS can, of course, discuss strategies that's suitable to you in order to address these rising costs. As mentioned earlier, there are a number of reasons to pre-plan. So I would encourage everybody who is watching to reach out to your UBS financial advisor and start having these discussions today.
Sounds great. So this was a really interesting conversation. I know we've only barely scratched the surface here. I want to thank you, Emily, and thank you, Rich, for your time today. I want to remind our viewers to visit our website at ubs.com/views for more information, and you can also access past episodes of UBS Trending that you can view on demand. Also, feel free to follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have specific questions about long-term care planning, as Emily mentioned, please reach out to your UBS financial advisor. And until we meet again, I'm Phil Pellegrino. Thanks for tuning in, and keep your eyes focused on what's trending.